told we're not ready, or that we shouldn't try, or that we can't. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
We're on the verge of making history.
The momentum has definitely shifted.
I accept your nomination for presidency of the United States.
I'm so proud of you, honey.
There is hope. H-O-P-E.
What's the problem?
We have a patient here, a diplomat brought in by ECOWAS. His temperature is very high.
This is a viral infection, a serious infection.
I think we have a problem developing here.
Nigeria was a mere spectator to the deadly Ebola crisis, sweeping West Africa, but now there are fears that country could be on the verge of becoming the next hot zone for the virus, with health officials there warning every nation and every individual is at risk.
It's a nation with an epic past.
This is British history. It belongs to all of us.
But the history of Africans in England has long been buried.
That story needs to be told.
Historian David Alushoga takes a powerful and personal journey.
That is wonderful.
Revealing a past that could change our present.
So she's a Black Briton?
1,700 years ago.
Yeah.
Africa and Britain, a forgotten history.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies, from Hollywood to Nollywood. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
MovieBox and IndieView Festival Lagos, presenting the winners of the short films competition for March 2022. Tear. Onjiale.
Gatra serves schoolgirls at night. Even after death.
Off the air.
This is Hot Topics at Dusk with Abib and Jesse. And we're getting everyone's opinion on a peculiar occurrence.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
I'm not calling about the hot topic.
Okay, so what are you calling for then?
These short films are available to stream now exclusively on Arise Play. You too can be a winner. It's not too late. 3 winners are being shortlisted every month. Do you think your short film can compete and win at the IndieView Festival? Then visit @Arise Play and @IndieView Lagos on Instagram for more information on how to submit your entry. Jumpstart your movie career and get on the path to fame with the exclusive IndieView and Arise Play MovieBox partnership. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
The election season is upon us, and Nigerians are being treated to a roller coaster ride. In the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, we have witnessed several tours to different parts of the country by aspirants to woo delegates. With less than 48 hours to the PDP presidential primary election, we've seen some high levels of uncertainty with even a withdrawal. Perhaps one of the most shocking pullouts is that of a leading presidential aspirant of the party, Peter Obi. His withdrawal from the PDP to contest on a yet-to-be-disclosed platform has led to widespread reaction from party members and Nigerians. According to Obi, his decision to leave was based on the recent developments in quotes within the party. What are these developments in quotes which he didn't disclose? Can the undisclosed developments in quotes affect other top PDP presidential aspirants? What lies ahead for the remaining 14 aspirants in the race to clinch the PDP's presidential ticket? And what is the standing of other presidential aspirants in terms of reach with delegates, media leverage, and public perception? We'll have a conversation on this. And also on the show, with the recent withdrawals and defection of aspirants from the two leading parties in the country, APC and PDP, it is being said that the Social Democratic Party is positioning itself to harvest some of these defectors, whether at the presidential or governorship or senatorial or House of Representatives levels. Information reaching Arise News within the political circles have it that some of the leading presidential aspirants in the APC and PDP may end up in SDP as their final destination. How is the SDP prepared for these defectors? Can the SDP structure cope with these bigwigs if they eventually defect into its fold or even other political parties? We'll be speaking with the national chairman of the party. I'm Somna Sambu, and this is the Arise interview. Welcome to the show. Now, more intrigues in the People's Democratic Party as the PDP prepares for its presidential primary election on Saturday. The party's primary election. Elections in the governorship, senatorial, House of Reps, and state houses of assembly congresses across the country have been marred by withdrawals from aspirants vying for different positions across the country. Now, the most surprising of them all can be said to be that of Peter Obi, one of the party's leading presidential aspirants. As the presidential primary election approaches, how prepared are the remaining 14 aspirants in the party to head for Saturday? Well, for more on this, I have in the studio with me Prince Daniel, who is the former director of information in one of the major news channels in Nigeria and now a spokesperson of the Tambuwal campaign organization. And we will be joined from our Lagos studio by Professor Anthony Killer, who is a policy strategist, to help us take a look at this ahead of Saturday. So good to have you. Let's start with your own campaign organization ahead of Saturday. How are you preparing for the presidential primary?
All right. First, thank you very much for having me. It's such a privilege to be on this platform. And as far as Saturday is concerned, all we are waiting for is to pick the ticket, celebrate, and prepare for the general elections. I don't know if that sounds arrogant.
Yeah, I mean, because you have a lot of top contenders. You have the political party strategizing ahead of time. But I just want you to tell us how the atmosphere is like at the People's Democratic Party right now ahead of Saturday. Have you done all that's necessary within your campaign organization? How are you doing last minute reach out to delegates to ensure that you have a successful outing?
Yes, we went round, as you know, with every other contestant for consultations. We went from north to south, east to west. We met the contestant. We had their heartbeats. We know what they want for the moment, because they all agree. We all understand that Nigeria is challenged. As a matter of fact, if Nigeria is not challenged, why are we contesting, or why is the principal contesting? Because before I even go into that, it is important that we put in perspective what everybody knows, that when your external debt is already about 38.005 trillion, you know you're in trouble. And then when you go further and see that your inflation rate as it stands now, according to the MBS, is about 15.7%, which is that it came from 15.6% at the close of last year. So what that means is that at the end of the day, you might just be in trouble already, since unemployment rate has already been consistent around 32.7%, and is also going to 33%. Why I'm giving this perspective is so that we first even understand what is going to dominate the discussion as far as the preparedness. So coming back to the preparations, we are ready. The spirit is high. We just finished our consultations on a very high note, having engaged with the contestants, we know their heartbeats, we know that apart from insecurity from the people in Maiduguri, you also be talking about the Lake Chad Basin. When you move to Kogi, you'll be talking about the Ajaokuta Steel. When you move to Niger, so the principal understands all the issues.
Okay, very interesting indeed from the Tambuwal campaign organization there. And I'm now being told that we're being joined by Professor Anthony Kila, and so good to have you on the show. Tell us, with Peter Obi's withdrawal from the presidential campaign of the People's Democratic Party, how should the other remaining top 14 contestants be looking at it? He actually mentioned some of the things that he said have made him not to be able to, come out and stand with the party any longer. Do you think that these things, although which he didn't go into detail, can also affect any of the presidential aspirants?
Well, I think, when you have 15 aspirants and then one pulls out, you have an advantage for the other 14. In a very cynical but realistic way, that means the votes that Obi was contending or taking away from the rest is now up for grabs. We've done some analysis to see where people are strong state by state and region by region. Peter Obi's strongest area is somewhere around the southeast, around Anambra, for example. It means that other contestants can go for that, so that perhaps the second choice in that place will now become the first choice. That is within the PDP, and that is related to the hopefuls for delegates. So the delegates that were Peter Obi inclined are now up for grabs for other people. That is the major sort of partisan consideration about that. In terms of personal political consideration for Peter Obi, we wait to see where he goes next, and it's going to be a test of popularity to see how much votes he can gather in the public.
And Professor Kila, we've seen the aspirants being narrowed down to about 4 or 5. Some others will tell you they have 6. We have the likes of Bukola Saraki. We have the likes of Atiku Abubakar, Aminu Tambuwal. We have the likes of Bala Muhammad. And it just goes on like that. With the whole arrangements now, how do you foresee any of these presidential aspirants at the moment, their strengths and their weaknesses, before we come back to him in the studio here?
Well, I think, yes, as somebody was saying, everybody's gone round and people have done their bit. We're looking at the result and the consequence of it now. It's a continuous game. We shall only know the truth after the voting has happened. But for now, there's a clear pattern which we've seen, and the pattern, beyond the rumors and gist and almost probable thing of influence of money and things like that. But I think this particular cycle of elections, we're going to be in for some surprises, because as we've seen so far in the PDP, we have seen some people who we thought they were too big to lose eventually clearly lose. I'm not going to mention names, but those who follow politics will have seen that in the senatorial and in House of Reps, and indeed gubernatorial, some big names have lost. So we're going to be in for some surprise. But that's a general surprise. I think analysts will not be very surprised, because there's a very clear pattern for those studying the PDP thing that has been very clear. So, for example, if you take the PDP and just oppose it with Nigeria, distributing it into 6 zones, and then under those 6 zones, you have 60 states for 5 states in the southeast. There are patterns there, which also tells you the strategies of the politician. You have a Tambuwal man with you there, so we start with that. I think one of the first things that the Tambuwal campaign seems to have done is to consolidate the Northwest. And that gives their campaign a very strong edge, because Aminu Tambuwal seems to be the only person coming in with a whole region behind him, whilst everybody is taking, their beats left and right. And it's, we need to see how this has been done out of luck or capacity, because in reality, last time around when Tambuwal contested, he had to split the Northwest with quite a few people. This time around, there seems to be an open field for him there. Then we go to Northeast, you know, where if we go by where people come from, you will assume that Atiku will have a field day there, but apparently that is not the case. Some states are up for grab. I know, for example, that Borno State is not looking in the bucket of Abubakar Atiku. I know from patterns that we're following that some other states are not exactly going there. I know, for example, that Adamawa State seems to be full in the hands of Abubakar Atiku. So that means he hasn't got a whole region behind him, and that is going to affect a lot, because once you cannot come up with 5-6 states solidly behind you, it's going to be a problem. The new, you know, really new contender, the new kid on the block, is, I think, the River State Governor Wike, you know, who has made quite an heroic arrival on stage. Now, the thing about Wike is this: I think he's liked bits and pieces. He's liked by people because it's colorful, because it's exuberant. But I suspect that, and the patterns tend to show, that his style and personality does not seem to be popular with delegates who are sort of more, you know, the collegial and calmer. Unlike the rest of us, these delegates want somebody who's going to treat them well. You know, they want somebody who can win and who they can relate with. They want a strong party man. And I think, unlike voters, delegates do not like people who appear to be so strong from day one that perhaps when he gets there, they won't be able to reason with him. And that, I think, is affecting someone like Wike. Wike would have River State with him for sure. But I think he's going to struggle in the Southeast.
Yeah,
I suspect he's going to pick some places. Yes.
Okay, now I just want you to hold on there, because you brought a new dimension into it. If you look at the last presidential primaries held in Port Harcourt during the last presidential elections, you will see that there was this synergy between Wike and Tambuwal. And I want to ask Tambuwal's spokesman here, do you foresee an alliance, a situation whereby maybe a Wike and Tambuwal reach an alliance to either step down for each other or to just do something so that one of them gets this ticket? Prince, I'm actually talking about you.
Well, at this point, nothing can be ruled out politically. But for now, what is very paramount is everybody wants to fly on his own wings up until the end of the campaign. Because if there is anything of such, by now, people would have started discussing, negotiating, talking about where the alliances will come. But in politics, you can't rule out anything. But for now, we are strong in the race, even though we have seen some narratives here and there. They will say it's a 5-man race, 4-horse race, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, most of the national newspapers have been taking all of that.
But again, since the PDP is set to win an election in 2023, anything and everything is possible.
And I want to ask you, I mean, Aminu Tambuwal is from the Northwest. President Muhammadu Buhari would have ended his 8 years in government by next year. Do you think it's actually right for someone from the Northwest to actually succeed President Muhammadu Buhari like your principal is trying to do at the moment?
Yes, well, if you see the sham that Nigeria has become today, you want to begin to apply the doctrine of necessity. And doing so means, at this point, it is who has the capacity, the competence, and the character, and not necessarily who is coming from where. And this has been reiterated from our engagement with the delegates. They've all spoken. I'll be honest with you, nobody has talked about it while on the trail, or the consultative trail. Because what they want is that they want the dollar not to wrestle with the naira as it is. And then what they want is that they want to be able to live in peace. What they want is they want economic boom. What they want is they want things to work again. So nobody is talking about who is coming from where. And then
so we should say of the geopolitics for now. That's what you're saying?
Yes. I think the conversation has advanced.
Okay.
People are asking for different things.
All right, because I mean, Professor Killer, you're actually saying that Tambuwal has a whole region to himself. And I will talk about someone like Atiku Abubakar. I mean, having come from the northeast, and then you see Bala Mohammed coming from the northeast, then you see Wike coming from the south, and then you have the southeast block also still being there. I mean, you have the Sam Ohabonwas, the Pius Anyim, and all of that. With the exit of Peter Obi, do you foresee realignments? Do you think any of these other presidential aspirants will be going to Obi's camp to actually harvest some of the delegates that he could have got if he was still in the race?
I can authoritatively tell you they're doing that already. And I think the spokesman there is being diplomatic. I'll tell you what PDP is doing. PDP wants to win. That is, you know, the leaders of the party have looked at themselves and say, we want to win. And they've asked themselves, what is the surest way to win? They have studied some data, they have seen some patterns, and many of them think that they should convey their votes and their support on the candidate that can make them win. And winning is in two stages. The second stage is the general election, but the first stage is the primary election. So when you see the spokesman being very diplomatic and saying everything is possible, he is not telling the whole truth. I will tell you the whole truth. The whole truth is that we're hearing voices that some party leaders are already working for people to step down for Tambuwal. Their argument is that they say Tambuwal fits what the country wants because he's young, and because he has votes behind him. And that is why in the next few days, you're going to see a lot of negotiations and running left and right. We have them in the newsroom, and all strategists know that they're trying to move towards that side. PDP wants to come out very strong from their convention, so they're trying to make sure they don't have a lot of conflict, as it were.
And you think Nigerians would accept someone from the northwest of the country as a presidential candidate of the PDP after a Buhari would have completed his 8-year term?
Well, we cannot tell until we go to the vote. I think people who have strong reservations about, people who are very convinced about rotation of power are going to have a bit of problem. But I think the party seems prepared to make that case, to say, look, let us put that aside for now. That is the code that PDP is using. The code is doctrine of necessity. What they really say in plain English is, look, let's put aside this rotation thing aside. Let's get power. And once we get it, let's give it to somebody that appears to be what Nigeria wants, regardless of where it comes from. Then after that, we shall reset it.
All right.
That is the game they're playing. That, you know, that is the gamble.
As we
because the other side, and you see, and this is interesting, it is interesting to know that the other side of the game is this. Those who are close to inside sources will tell you that the way they reason is this. They are saying, what if we give it to somebody from another region and that person ends up not winning and ABC still wins us? So they're focusing on winning. I think that is where the game is. I argue that they are taking a shortcut. They're just saying, let us win. Who seems to have more that can make us win? And they're rallying around that person. And that is why all of a sudden, people are talking about Tambuwal now.
Well, recalibration, realignment here and there, especially after Peter Obi's exit.
Yeah.
But I just want to, before we end, ask you, the spokesman, Prince, why is it difficult for a lot of Nigerian media actually to give Tambuwal an opportunity? Because unlike in the last presidential primaries of the PDP, during the last presidential elections, we are seeing that the top four are being narrowed down to Atiku, Saraki, Wike, and then Peter Obi before, you know, his exit from the party. What does it look like it's been difficult narrowing down to Tambuwal in this particular election, primary election?
I can tell you honestly, it's fear. And the fear made it that most of these candidates are spinning stories here and there. And of course, I will confidently say the media is also not helping matters. If not, if you check the trend, even from 2018, somebody who came second with 693 votes couldn't have been ignored. And when that happened, there were 7 contestants from Northwest, and then Atiku from Northeast. So now there are 3 from Northeast: Atiku, Hayatu, and Bala. So how will you do your postulation and say that a Tambuwal who came second with almost 700 votes in the last election with 7 other people will not be on the top 2 or even the first position as it is? Because right now, if we are being honest, he is the candidate to beat. So if the news are spinning here and there, the truth is that Tambuwal is the candidate to beat as it is now, because age is a factor, understanding of Nigeria is a factor, because somebody needs somebody
very quickly.
Yes, somebody is somebody that is vast, somebody who has traveled about 360 constituencies of Nigeria. He understands the problem. He understands the issue. Somebody who understands the rule of law as a legal practitioner. Somebody who has been to the legislature, to the rank of the speaker. Somebody who is an executive. He understands all the arms of government.
We know it's your job to actually say this man, but for now we just have to end the show. But Professor Killer, I won't go without asking you this. Do you think that PDP is prepared to give the APC a good fight for its money very quickly in 30 seconds ahead of Saturday's primary election?
Well, I think they are, but the citizens have to decide. I think PDP is hungry for power, and somehow they've convinced themselves that they can save the country, but then it's the citizens who would decide. And I think they're doing a lot of preparation. So far, they appear to be more disciplined than the APC, that must be said. You know, but then again, 2023 is a long way to go.
Well, we must thank you so much, Professor Anthony Killer, who has joined us from Lagos, our Lagos studio, and of course, Prince Daniel, who is the spokesman of the Tambuwal campaign organization, here for joining us on the show. You're still watching the Horizon TV. When we return, we will now be focusing on the Social Democratic Party and how that party is positioning itself to harvest some of the people that may be aggrieved in the APC or PDP. Stay with us.
I just want flex, don't need stress in my life. Avoid the yawa, I no want queue for the bank. Sharp, sharp, I don't open an account. Digital bank, we get the power, now vote. I pay my bills easily, I'm running things like a boss. Collect a loan with no collateral. Vote is the way. Vote is the answer. From Polaris Bank. Vote is the answer. Vote is the way.
Take control. Download Volt by Polaris Bank. That's VULTE. Visit the Google Play Store or Apple Store now. Volt is available to Polaris and non-Polaris Bank customers. Volt by Polaris Bank.
There's no other animal as courageous and majestic as the lion. But with only 50 lions left in Nigeria, they may soon just be a memory. When snares are used for bushmeat, we rob the lions of their food and risk maiming them for life. So please say no to illegal bushmeat and help protect the lions.
Keep them wild and keep us safe.
In 1894, our first branch opened in Lagos, Nigeria. And we took our place in this new land brimming with possibilities and surprises. Take Kano, for instance, where the city's wealthiest trader made his first deposit. 20 bags of silver arriving on camelback. Aren't you glad that we offer online banking today? Expanding across the West African sub-region and beyond, our early presence made it possible for all hardworking Africans to build great things. So is it any wonder that not one, but two first bankers have gone on to become Nigeria's central banker? We are intricately woven into the fabric of society, supporting polo for over 100 years and pushing the limits of athletic performance. rooted in tradition, but constantly leaning forward into the future. Are you coming?
You first, First Bank.
Good afternoon, Oga. Now you be the landlord.
Yes, Nami.
Oga landlord, me go need one room for this your house, so.
Okay, sure you get work where you dey do.
Yes, I be nurse.
You know go dey owe me be that now.
Now how much be your rent, safe?
Not just 90,000 naira. Wait, oh, this guy, where you come from, Sef?
Oga, I come from Akamata.
Akamata? No talk am again. My spirit and Akamata people no dey ever join.
Oga, wetin happen now?
Come over my compound. Na so baba thing na people sabi do for that Akamata. Come over here.
Haba, Papa, wetin this innocent girl do you now? Now people like you, they spoil Nigeria, Papa.
I think you don't see am now. My people they talk say jollof rice wey dey for bottom pot today go dey top of cooler tomorrow. As I take need you now, so you self need me. Because now one mama we get we be Nigeria. Make we love ourselves because now only together we go fit make our country better for us and our children them. One heart plus one love equals better Nigeria. Now the Center for Democracy and Development CDD with support from the UK government they bring in this message.
Dear distinguished elected and statutory delegates, my name is Mohammed Hayatuddin. As an accomplished banker, a seasoned economist, and a turnaround manager, and a technocrat of competence and distinction, I come prepared and equipped to offer optimal solutions to the nation's multidimensional and multifaceted problems. I want to help rebuild our dear country, restore the competence and integrity of our public institutions, and rapidly transform our economy and society. I possess impeccable pedigree, as well as latent and specific ability to hit the ground running. I have the depth and the breadth of knowledge and the sophisticated worldview to unleash a new era of prosperity, peace, and stability. It's time to take Nigeria back, and together we can. My name is Mohammed Hayatuddin.
Welcome back to the Horizon TV, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the conversations. I'm Somna Sambo. We'll now move on to the Social Democratic Party. Now, at different levels of the political sphere, aspirants of the two leading parties have been withdrawing and defecting in large numbers. Now, information reaching Arise News within the political circles has it that some of the leading presidential aspirants in the APC and PDP may end up in the Social Democratic Party, SDP, as their final destination. How is the SDP prepared for these defectors? Can the SDP structure cope with these bigwigs if they eventually defect into its fold? We are now speaking with the national chairman of the party, Shehu Gabam, who now joins us directly in the studio. So good to have you.
A great pleasure, Shaggy.
Well, we heard the SDP is the newest bride in town. I mean, tell us a little bit about this decision of many of these persons who are refusing to participate in the governorship primaries of the PDP or APC or the senatorial primaries or the House of Rep primaries or state houses of assembly primaries, and planning to come to you or some other political parties.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for inviting me. Secondly, to make it very clear that we laid this foundation a long time ago. Any political operative ought to have known that this crisis had been predicted a long time ago. And because of lack of internal democracy in PDP and APC, obviously a smart party would prepare to win election.
You have been in the PDP yourself. I remember, based on your experience nationally and all of that.
What we experienced in the PDP, the agony and the kind of treachery we went through made us to leave the party. And of course, we went into SDP to make it a national platform. It wasn't an easy process. We went through a lot of challenges, but eventually people have come to terms and reality that SDP is a platform to beat. And we are not focusing on generating revenue. We are focusing on winning election. And that is why in most of the state of the federation, we fielded only one candidate to one position. We did not duplicate sale of forms because we are trying to get away from complications of litigations and so on and so forth. Wow. Because the dynamics have changed and you have to work with the reality that is on ground.
So
Nigeria
you're being
has changed.
strategic by selling only one form.
Absolutely.
That means you're building a consensus around specific
We are
candidates.
building a consensus. Just like yesterday, in Kwara, we had about 5 gubernatorial aspirants. So we worked around them. They had a consensus, and somebody have a match. As I'm talking to you, I have just been screened at the party headquarters as the candidate of the party in Kwara States. You know, so the Otoge group that produces the news, all of them have fallen into SDP as a whole. The same
is
thing
Lai Mohammed part of it?
Well, Lai is
the Minister of Information, because he's aggrieved.
He's serving in the government, so it's not part of us.
Okay.
But that large group that determined the fate of, you know, the emergence of this government, they are all in the SDP, all of them.
But won't you be accused of imposition because you're not doing primary election?
No. We have done primary elections. There was no consensus. The consensus was only between the contestants, but our primary elections, as we sent to INEC, is indirect primaries in all the state of the federation. Okay. We have done the state assembly primaries on the 24th of this month. Today they have done the screening for the House of Reps. The primary will take place tomorrow. The Senate will be, primaries will be on the 27th. On the 28th will be the primary for the senators. On the 29th, 30th will be the primary for the governorship nationwide. So we are adopting indirect primaries.
When is your presidential primary?
Our presidential primaries and convention on the 2nd of June.
Okay. Now, you've attracted some new political leaders, some bigwigs, even those who did the corporate environment like Atedo Peterside. A lot of us were actually surprised that he chose the SDP as his new political party. And you're trying to position yourself as a party for young people. I want to ask if indeed we are having the PDP presidential primary this weekend and that of the APC too coming up this weekend. If some of the defectors move to the SDP, wouldn't there be a problem with INEC based on the Electoral Act provision that you can't participate in 2 primaries? And then secondly, you are supposed to produce a register of party members to INEC. If these people are not yet in the SDP, how do you intend to manage that? Because you're supposed to have them as your members first, then before you forward that membership register to INEC.
Well, we are quite conversant with the Electoral Act. What happened was that when this Electoral Act was amended, or was approved and signed by the President, we gave it to our legal team to study it and understand the difficult environment that we need to navigate through, which you have mentioned. We have deposited our registers. The deposition of registers is a continuous exercise, you know, and then of course, the Electoral Act is clear. You cannot participate in 2 primaries. So obviously anybody who have not purchased the form, who have not submitted the form, is not likely to participate in the primaries. The possibility or the window, which I don't see the possibility if somebody have a match as a presidential candidate to step down for somebody. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it depends on high-level conversations and discussions that perhaps might convince whosoever emerge to step down for somebody. Otherwise, the windows are almost closing.
Okay, so let's get you very clearly. So you can still accommodate new members in the SDP, and then you find a way of sending the register to INEC
Naturally,
later.
we can accommodate more
members.
We can continue to accommodate.
Okay.
We are accommodating up to now that I'm talking to you.
Oh, interesting indeed. Yes. But for those who maybe are presidential aspirants in the APC or PDP, for them to participate in the SDP primaries, they would have to resign or refuse to participate in the PDP and APC presidential primaries before they are qualified for yours.
They have to, you know, not to participate in any of the party that they belong to primaries. And of course resign from that and then be members of the party. Then they can come through substitution. The special substitution is quite good, and it accommodates all the new Electoral Act provisions. You
okay,
know,
so you've just set the ball rolling, because it means now that on the eve of the PDP presidential election or presidential primaries or the APC presidential primaries, those who may want to come to your party may have to rethink whether to go into the primary election and lose, or have an opportunity of defecting to your party or any other party.
The electoral act is very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, and they have to study it very
careful.
Well. Yes, I mean,
avoid legal issues.
These things were there so as to prevent all of this. Now, very quickly, as we try to go there to round off this program, tell us the Social Democratic Party, what are you planning for Nigerians ahead of the general election that will make you different from the APC, PDP, and other political parties?
Now, there's nothing new that anybody can reinvent. Any presidential aspirant that do not understand this, there's massive challenges of insecurity, which is in Article 1 of the Constitution, the protection of life and property of Nigeria, then he shouldn't think of vying for president of Nigeria. And any president who don't understand that our infrastructure has decayed to an extent that is creating massive insecurity nationwide, then he doesn't need to contest. And anybody who don't understand that the level of unemployment have gone extremely very high, he doesn't need to contest. And the poverty level have eaten so bad, the purchasing power of Nigeria are extremely very low. Now, if you don't have the economic team, economic expert that can advise you how to rejiggle the economy, and the devaluation of our currency that have weakened our economic base, then he doesn't need to contest.
Okay.
These are factors that are visible, that are touchable, that you don't need a researcher to tell you these are the problems.
Yeah,
because the problems are
very interesting. I'm being told that we don't have enough time. But before we go, have you approached Peter Obi to, out of his grievances with the PDP, come into your party? And also, is it true that Bola Tinubu wants the SDP presidential ticket?
I don't want to speculate. Well, conversations are ongoing.
Including with Tinubu?
I don't want to speculate.
How about Peter Obi?
I don't want to speculate. But there are a lot of conversations that are ongoing.
Okay, but is
I owe it a duty to keep it as private as it is right now.
Okay.
And if you realize of recent, SDP was off publicity a lot because...
Yeah, and I was surprised myself.
We need to protect those that are coming in. There are a lot of technical operations. It takes a daft politician to think that everything is for publicity. There are periods of publicity, there are periods of technical operation. We are in a technical operation right now.
But is the SDP willing to go into alliance with other political parties for what's called the third force?
No. We are not going into any alliance. There's no discussion of alliance with the SDP. We are too strong to go into any alliance. I mean to go into any merger. But we are willing to absorb parties that want to come into SDP. But as it is now, SDP cannot be absorbed by any party. We are too strong to be absorbed by any party. But alliance are possible. Those who want to have strategic alliance, depending on the type of alliance, the alliance must be properly defined to suit the circumstances that we are in. The MOUs and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But not SDP to move into any
just very quickly, in 30 seconds, do you foresee the next president of Nigeria coming out of the SDP?
Absolutely. I advise APC and PDP to be very watchful, to be very careful. No longer to think SDP is a party that they think of before.
So from number 4, you're prepared to be number 1 now?
It's a major force that they should look forward to.
All right, Ladisho Gabam is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, and we must thank you and congratulate you on your new position, because you used to be the former national secretary before your emergence. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Arise interview. Well, that's how it's been on this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambo.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.